Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday. It is 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Welcome to our office hours here on the ViaMonstra Academy. It is definitely time. Let's roll the trailer. All right, then. This is the show where you can learn about updates for MDT, ConfigMgr, Intune, Microsoft ecosystems in general. I'm Johan, Andrew is Andrew. We will be host for the next hour here. So, as usual, hit us with your very hardest question. And in the meantime, we will share some news from the previous week. So, Andrew, what do you have for us?
I did come across a few things in this weird, last week that we've had over here in Northern Illinois with snow days and days off, and it's been a weird one. But I managed to take some of that time and catch up on things. So if you want to share my exactly, if you want to share my screen, I will go ahead and share them with the viewers here.
Yes, I shall. Here we are.
I knew it. I knew you knew where that button was. All right.
Many times, yeah.
Indeed, you have. So the first thing that I came across over the last couple of days was from our friend Matthias. Put together a blog post on building M365 apps in sort of the Autopilot and Intune world. To some extent, this builds on a blog post that we've shared many times previously from Jan over at MS Endpoint Manager. So this is using our the Win32 app deployment solution in Intune rather than the built-in M365 app solution. So that provides you a little bit more control over what you can do with these applications. So Matthias put together a nice blog post here explaining the whole thing. In addition to not only building the standard M365 apps deployment, but the uninstall for it, as well as additional packages or XMLs rather, excuse me, for Visio and Project. Of course, you can. These are just built using the Office deployment tool or config.office.com to build these XML files. So you can customize these as necessary for your organization. But this is a great blog post on sort of moving this into that world. If you're on that journey at the moment, which, as it turns out, more and more people we talk to, turns out a lot of people are on that journey in some way, shape, or form right now. So great stuff here from Matthias. We also have, there is the IntuneMaps website that we've talked about once or twice on here from Shehan Perera. He just did a version 2 update to this page earlier this week, I believe. So sort of reorganized it a little bit, updated the images, and added some additional things on here. So this page basically gets you to the various Microsoft Learn pages for specific areas of Intune. So, for example, if we wanted to learn about Windows updates in Intune or how we can manage them, we can find the Windows updates category right here on the page. Click over to Windows Update for Business, and we're going to be taken to that specific Microsoft Learn page so that we can start learning more. Great starting point, great reference web page. That we want to make sure that we shared with all of you.
That's quite impressive work. Getting all that together. That's a lot of info.
It really is. I mean, a lot of effort, I imagine, gone into this. This is a fantastic resource. Came across GK over at Microsoft, put together this blog post on doing software inventory with applications that were installed with Winget and using log analytics. So I still need to dive into this a little bit more myself, but anywhere that we see improvements on the app inventory space, on the Intune side of things, even if that involves bringing log analytics into the fold, I always try to share that information out. And at the very least, if it doesn't solve somebody's solution, hopefully gets the gears turning for how you might be able to do app inventory with Intune in your own organization. So great stuff here as well. Another fantastic resource. Looking forward to getting into this a little bit myself. And like a lot of the log analytics reporting that we see here on the Intune side of things, looks like it's going to involve a remediation and a custom script that will then push information up to log analytics. Last but not least, this is a little bit on the fringes of what Johan and I are normally involved in, since we're doing so much systems management. But that sort of forces us to also look at the Defender side of things sometimes, even Defender for Identity, not just Defender for Endpoint and all of the other Defender solutions. So for those of you that are working with Defender for Identity, Microsoft released a new PowerShell module yesterday that will help testing and validation of getting the Defender for Identity sensors deployed out in your on-prem environment. This module makes things quite a bit easier, just in validating that everything's configured the way that it's expecting to before you deploy everything. So very useful tool here that I wanted to share as well. This was fantastic news. I saw a lot of people excited about this one as well. So that is what I have on my list for this afternoon. Oh, are you muted?
Yes.
There you go.
I am muted. I am now unmuted. Took care of it. Okay.
Absolutely. Great job.
Thank you, sir. It was a lot of work. Following up on the discussion from last week regarding the fancy patch that was causing a lot of grief for some folks. I did watch earlier today the video that the folks over at Patchmasters EPC recorded on Thursday. Brian Dam, Jordan Bensing were joined by Brian Mason as well. So that was a good video. I will get that link up here.
Were you intending to share your screen as well?
Yeah, if you just give me a moment, good sir.
I assumed, just verifying.
All right, let's see if I do this and this.
That looks like not my screen.
All right, then. So this video right here is available for viewing right now. And this video here, if you look at the description of it, you will see that the first 10 minutes or so is where they discuss this particular issue with patches not applying correctly if the devices either don't have a recovery drive or if the free space of that recovery drive is too small. So highly recommend to watch that one. I'm going to make a note in my link collection so I don't forget to share it. Then I will yell at by Andrew, and I don't want to. So try to avoid that. But anyhow, in relation to this, Martin Hemkin that we referenced last week, he also released a new version of his script that if a recovery partition doesn't have the space that it needs, it goes ahead and removes it, shrinks the Windows volume, and creates a new partition with the right size. So I took that script and ran on one of my devices. Forgot what day it was some day in the weekend here. But long story short, I had a device that looked pretty much like this. I'm just going to log into it real quick. So I have a device that actually did have a recovery partition that were plenty of disk space available for it, but I pretended that I didn't have enough disk space. So, all right, fine. I want to have 2 gigs for my recovery partition. So I took a script, I ran it on this machine here. I told it that I wanted to have a 2 gig recovery partition. And come on. Can't be that hard. I know it's Wednesday. It's been a long week already, but you have to log me in. So, long story short, I ran that script, and after open up disk management on that device, I now have a 2 gig healthy recovery partition. So that was an elegant solution. So this script does all the right things. It does disable it before removing and puts it back when it's done, and so that would be a good start. Then I stumbled across a post from Damien. I've been showcasing here a good few times on the office hours. He put together a nice blog post about Log Analytics v2, how you can send custom data to it. I haven't had a chance to test it yet. It was published yesterday, but I figured, why not share it? Now, most of you probably saw the announcement, especially since it came out a little bit earlier than apparently it was intended from the beginning. But now it's official news. Copilot Pro will be available, or is available, for individual folks. If you don't know, you need to be a large organization or medium-sized organization to be able to leverage these features. You can go ahead and do it on your own. You have to pay for it to get the fancy features, but it is available. Price-wise, it's pretty much the same as OpenAI and the other platforms that have a subscription for AI functionality or generative AI, depending on how you look at it.
Have you had the opportunity to play around with this at all yet? I'm just now seeing it pop up in some of my tenants.
No, sir, I have not. I've been using OpenAI for almost a year, but
Yeah.
I will get one of these as well, just to see how they are different.
Sounds good.
And finally, from my part, there was a big announcement this week. This young gentleman was officially announced as speaker at MMS. So,
Yes.
yay, congrats on you, Andrew.
Thank you.
This is the good stuff.
It's a pleasure and an honor. This is our favorite. Well, I think I've said before, I don't mind speaking for you here, but this is one of our, if not our favorite conference, and it's sort of like Christmas in May.
Absolutely. This is the good stuff. So, all right.
Love it.
Perfect. So what's going on in our questions queue?
We got a couple of good afternoons, so thank you. Hello for those that have joined us. Michael also joined from a couple of weeks ago. He asked the question about boot media with expiration date, and you had teased on Twitter that there is a solution. Any updates on that?
Yes, with some help from friends, Michael Niehaus in particular, figured out a script that can decode that time value into something that makes more sense. I started to write up a blog post about it. I just haven't had a chance to publish it. But the code is there. It is functional. I just need some time to write it up and add it in. So basically what I did, I took the code that converted the time value that you got from that variable, and I applied it to the background using bginfo. The only downside is that media variable is not available like right away when WinP boots, because the sequence environment is not available at that point. It actually have to go all the way into the pre-start section or phase of OSD, which is just before you select the sequence and hit next. And in the media, sequence is always pre-selected. But anyhow, you have to click next on that little guide that pops up, and then it will populate the information. But at least the technician would get some indication on when the media is about to be expired in a like January 5, 2025 type notion instead of this weird number that was shown. So give me a day or two, and I will have that blog post up with some explanations.
All right, fantastic. There's just a follow-up before we move on. Michael asked, what format is the time value in?
Oh, it was a universal time value.
Okay.
But it was 2 dates, and they have to be subtracted from each other.
Oh.
I was like, okay, that was an interesting. You might remember there were 2 values.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
subtracting one from the other, you ultimately get to the actual date.
Yeah, and then there was I forgot if it was it was like a hex to decimal conversion that needed to happen as well, or something like that, some bit operation that even Michael didn't know existed at the time, but he's so dang smart, so he figured it out, obviously.
Awesome. Well, that's clever.
Yeah.
All right. Mark is asking over on Twitter, what is the status of MDT and building capture for the foreseeable future? Lots of blowback from management saying it is not supported.
Well, MDT itself is still supported. It's just that Microsoft no longer test it with Windows 11 or Server 22 for that matter. So those platforms are not officially supported by the product or the platform. And I expect MDT to go away fairly shortly altogether. Have been no formal announcements, but I see that happening. There hasn't been a single update in 4 years now. That usually gives a good indication that it's not going to last forever. If you read the support statements about MDT right now, it basically says that we will support it as long as the supported operating systems are under support. And guess what? They just expired. The Server 2016 is now being expired out of mainstream. Windows 1809 has been expired a long time ago. And those were the latest operating systems that MDT actually supported. It's right there in the release notes. So I do not know for how long they will be available. But in terms of supportability, I have a little bit of mixed feelings on that one. MDT in its own right, if you take a look, see what I have here. This is a good old MDT server. Everything that is in this one is just VB scripts. So if you look at the code that, for example, apply the operating system. And I should have in the end, it is a command line that runs dism.exe. It's a script that runs dism.exe to do something. And that command is supported and will be, because that's how you do it. The rare exception is ConfigMgr, where they took all of these commands and basically wrapped them into their own executables and run them. But normal ADK has these tools available. So if you will come to an argument with Microsoft support where, for example, you can't apply an image, you can always put up WinPE and run just that command, talk to support and say, hey, this command is not working. Because it's not going to be how you called it. It's going to be that there are some issue with that command that needs to be fixed. So that is supported. The only other solution is to go out and, for example, invest in ConfigMgr and use that for imaging. That one is still supported, will be for a long time. they are testing Windows 11. They are supporting Windows Server 22 as well. And ConfigMgr is pretty dang good at deploying the image, or operating systems has the same feature set, and if not more, than MDT does. Of course, you have to pay for the product, but still. Then you have the other community solutions like the PSD, which is extending MDT. There are other third party out there that develop deployment solutions. They won't be supported by Microsoft either. Community solutions will be supported by the community. If you buy a product from a vendor A, it will be the support from vendor A that will support them. And often that's okay. Maybe not the community one, but at least vendor A supporting product B, because that's how we buy software. I know very few customers. In fact, I don't know of any customer who only use software from Microsoft. They usually have something from someone else that they are running in their environment, and they are okay with Microsoft not supporting it because they have support from a vendor that they hopefully trust. So that's kind of my take on it. I'm not too worried. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, use something else then. I'm sad to see it go away, but
Yeah, Michael just added in here too, just a comment. I've converted my MDT to your PowerShell version. I hope it continues to work until I retire.
That sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Just a couple other comments to share here from YouTube side of things. Congratulations from Michael. Thank you very much for that. It's always interesting trying to understand all the inside jokes in the MMS speaker announcements. They are good. Horse Rancher is just, I spend so much time with Johan.
And we have a farm, so yeah. Horses.
I wouldn't be surprised if you can see a couple from your peripheral vision right now.
Yeah,
unless they're sticking.
Yeah.
You know? Figured they're probably ready for a little bit of warmth today.
Warmth and snacks. By snacks, I mean hay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I know which one's more important for them. Probably the snacks.
Probably the snacks.
All right. Question here from Vert over on YouTube. Is Pixie needed for Autopilot?
Well, no. The short answer is no. Autopilot has actually nothing to do with imaging. And Pixie is connected to imaging. So, nope. Autopilot is a technique to enroll devices into Intune. However, Autopilot does require someone to put Windows on the device. In general, Microsoft wants that someone to be not you. They want Dell or a partner or someone to do that. Well, basically, you are outsourcing that part to them. But there are scenarios for Autopilot where you guys are the one doing imaging. And then yes, having Pixie Boot is a fantastic way to image devices, unless you really, really like to run around with USB sticks.
Short and sweet.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Amir's got an MDT question here. We're trying to stop Windows updates from automatically updating hardware drivers during an MDT task sequence on the Windows 11 23 H2 deployment using the exclude WU drivers in quality update reg key with no luck. Have you had any experience with that?
Fun story. I was arguing or discussing in tweeting. I was tweeting last year in a thread where a ConfigMgr customer, so not an MDT customer, the ConfigMgr customer were having the exact same problem during the ConfigMgr sequences for Windows 11, where the device will just reboot in the middle of the sequence just because it happened to find a patch being available. And Matt Reed, who was commenting in on that thread, was kind enough to send me their solution they come up with, which is a mix of entries in the antenna XML file that ConfigMgr uses, and a script that you can run really early in the sequence that will take care of the rest. I've been working on testing that and writing up a blog post with Matt's blessing. Obviously, he will get the credit for it, but I've been promising I would write it up. I'm not quite there yet. And I will bet you the exact same techniques will work for MDT, because an MDT task sequence is just a standalone version of the ConfigMgr sequence, and Windows is still Windows no matter how you deploy it. So hang out with that one, please. I'm going to need a few more days on it. It's always a bit challenging when you have full days with other stuff going on, and then writing blog posts and getting scripts ready, it takes a little bit of time, unfortunately. So there is hope, but I haven't published it just yet.
All right. We'll look forward to that. All right. Just a thank you from Vert. It was an interview question, so looking for some confirmation there. That was about the Pixie with Pixie and Autopilot.
Yeah. But it's funny because sometimes, especially if we talk to salespeople that may not have the technical background to it, they may think that deployment and Autopilot is the same thing, but nope, it is not.
No, definitely. I mean, I can see I can see where confusion on that can come into play, because it's almost like you said, if you don't have that background, it's almost like that's how it's marketed in some ways. You don't need ConfigMgr anymore. You just need Autopilot and Intune, of course. But that's just me. That's just Andrew blabbing right now. All right, we just had another question come in about drivers. I'm testing out Windows 11 on an HP Dragonfly G3 using Windows 11 23H2, and I can't get the camera driver to install. Any ideas on what I could be missing?
I don't know about a G3. Sounds a little bit older.
Just a follow-up.
Versioning is
yeah, just a follow-up couple follow-up comments here. Nothing missing in Device Manager, nothing in Windows updates. Camera works, but not showing the infrared, so no, or not showing the IR, so no Windows Hello.
nothing that rings a bell. And actually, the device was delayed, so it was released quite recently. They just started to talk about it a while ago. So it looks like it was published in 2022. And that should mean HP should have full support for it for Windows 11, because they usually have a bit of a longer cycle. The only thing that may come to mind is that there might be an application that have to be installed to go with it. Or there might be a store app that provides additional functionality for the camera. So just having the driver alone is not enough. I don't have one of those models I can test with, so I would recommend reaching out to HP support and see if they can figure out why the camera is not installed. I mean, because if you have the driver and the driver installs fine, but the camera is still functional, it has to be something else that is needed. Out of curiosity, let me see if we can find that model. So if I head over to here, And let's pick. So it's the same driver set for 22H2 as it is for 23H2 because they're essentially the same version of Windows, just the enablement package in between them. So let's see what we find in terms of Dragonfly G3. Yeah, they do have 11 support for the G3 Dragonfly. I would recommend to download this package and take a look what's inside of it to see if there are any additional applications and things for the camera, because sometimes they ship those applications with the package. So maybe there.
All right. Very helpful tip. Right. Yeah, just a couple of follow-up comments here. I just want to make sure that we don't miss them. Just again, nothing missing in the device manager. It's not even showing as an item, which is odd for sure.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this helps a little bit, and at least gives you a thread to pull on in troubleshooting that. If you do find a solution, we'd love to hear about it, though.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we had a question over on YouTube. Joining a little bit late here, so sorry if this was already covered. I've been meaning to ask what's going on with this WinRE update error. Would love to hear your opinion on it for those still using WSUS. So I know you've been talking the last couple of weeks about this WinRE update, Johan. Anything different when using WSUS?
I thought it was not published there. I didn't see it. There was some channels it wasn't available at. I forgot which.
Let's see if we can find that. Yeah, I think that's been part of the confusion around it, right? Is that it shows up one way in this OS and it shows up one way in this OS.
Yeah, that I actually don't know for sure.
Let's see here.
I don't remember if it was mentioned in the webinar either for WSUS there. But there was a confirmation coming here in the chat from someone else saying that it is indeed not published in WSUS.
Oh, okay. That's the follow-up there who asked the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then you will have to get it from somewhere else.
All right. John is asking on YouTube, in a full ConfigMgr wipe and load task sequence, it can have an install update step. Is this more reliable now? And is it possible and reliable to install the third-party updates? To which I would spent enough time with you, Johan.
No, that step is still shite, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Vert even followed up here to suggest offline servicing of the WIM file instead.
Yeah, that is a good one. And I think 23H2 is still broken to do that directly in ConfigMgr, but I don't recommend doing that anyway. I recommend using a custom script to apply updates if needed, or use the latest media if you have it available. I was actually having a discussion with a gentleman on Twitter yesterday. Ronaldo is the builder who doesn't have full support for 23H2 just yet. We're doing some troubleshooting there. Even for the latest Windows 10, there were some issues. kicking in. If you really must have the sequence patch, which again I do not recommend, it is better to use a different script for it. You can even steal the CDI Windows Update script from MDT. It's more reliable. You can get the Windows Update module from PowerShell Gallery. It's more reliable. But the native step in the sequence it's known for not being the best at patching, unfortunately. And it has been so for a long time.
Yep, John just followed up. Good short answer. All he needed. Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, by all means, if you want to try it out, because if it works, it works. But if it doesn't, all right, fine. You have these workarounds for it.
Yep. Right.
All right.
Great questions today, as always.
As always, yeah. Wait a minute. Let me bring the screen back real quick. I did kick off and started that download for the Dragonfly G3 notebook one. And the file that was downloaded using this tool was a different one that was mentioned in the chat here. So maybe try this one instead. See if that's any help. Because these updates is what they're testing for enterprise devices.
I have a question only because I know that typically I deal more with Dells and you've got some more experience with HPs than I do. The file naming convention on these, do they actually indicate anything? Do they increment with newer versions of drivers or?
Oh, the SP packages?
Yes.
Yeah, they're just a sequence number.
Okay.
That they attribute to different ones. I did find a bug in this tool recently. I was working with a customer who was behind a proxy and SSL inspection, a few other things. And it would time out all the time. Try to download some of these packages, especially from Dell in that case, but I've seen it for others. Should you stumble across that issue, there is a fairly easy fix for it, because Maurice released the source code for this tool. That's not that one. Let's see where I put that one. Here. And there is a global setting for bits somewhere in the script. Here. It's configured for foreground. And that is quite aggressive. And if you have a little bit of a shaky network, it will not work. But you can change it to something else. So, for example, normal would be a good setting, maybe even background. When you download a file through bits, using start bits transfer, which the script is doing, there is a priority switch, and it has these values. So I would recommend changing the script to normal and see if the problem goes away. For this customer, it went away completely. They've been fighting it for weeks, trying to get packages down, and it would just time out and fail and didn't work, and they thought it was something wrong with the website. No, it was just that the bits transfer was a little bit aggressively configured in the script by default. So I hope I can twist Maurice's arm to make this normal, the default, because the performance is actually not that big of a difference. And even Kylo here, as you can hear, he agrees. So yeah, maybe that.
Awesome. Good find. I would have never thought of that. Though
Well, every
I
now and
feel
then.
for. Yeah. Um, I feel for you anytime that you specifically talk about SSL inspection. I know you've had plenty of run-ins that have caused you to lose a few minutes of sleep.
Maybe once or twice. It's going to be the bane of my existence.
Yep. Just a follow-up here. The HPMIK server plugin is pretty decent if you're an all HP shop. It'll let you download and import driver packages and any app access normal legacy software packages.
I haven't tried that one, but I've tried their library, and I think the library was using the same functionality, and the library is awesome. The library from HP, or the PowerShell module. We're using that for other stuff, like updating the payload for boot media on sure recover devices.
Oh, he is talkative this evening.
No, I think I know what's up here. Good lord. Give me a second. Hold the fort.
Sure. I can do that. Let's start dancing or singing. No, none of you want that. So just a follow-up from Vert on Lenovo devices. What I found best for Lenovo devices is to use MDM first with the included drivers, and later, after OS install and restart, copy drivers downloaded by the Lenovo downloader. And then I'm using 2 steps with that method, but seems to be working.
All right.
That's good.
That's a good tip. Thank you.
Hmm. Let's see.
Dog wants to play in the snow. Well, I'm pretty sure the dog wanted to do something else in the snow. That's a good comment, though. But I would go with playing.
That's right. Let's see. Oh, okay. So for the Lenovo devices, first install BIOS and drivers via thin installer, and then second step, install the firmwares. All right, great tip. And then on the HPMIK plugin, we'll create a task sequence for you as well with all of the per model queries. So if this model, then install the SP package that you were showing earlier. Cool. Yeah. That sounds like a nice solution.
Excellent. Any other questions?
I just appreciate everybody sharing their own experiences, since all of the manufacturers do these things, somewhat differently in many regards. That's great stuff. Right, let's see if we missed any questions so far, but we still do have 15 minutes left if any other questions are coming to mind for anybody.
Well, in the meantime, I can let you know that the dogs are safely returned in.
All right, excellent. He's tired from all of his playing.
Well, when it's like minus 10 outside, they don't want to stay out for much longer. No. They're like, can we please come back in, sir? Very much. It's cold.
I don't blame them. Yeah. It's funny, anytime I ask, it seems like the horses, above all, really don't care that much compared to us or the dogs.
No, they're like, oh, this is good. I like it. They've been doing snow angels in the snow. Well, rolling around rather, but...
They're trying their best.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's hard. We have 4 legs, and it's just...
Welcome to Horse Office Hours, everybody.
Yeah.
Today we'll be discussing horses making snow angels.
Indeed. And drivers.
That's right. Every once in a while, they'll sneak into your lab, deploy a couple of VMs.
Yeah, that happens.
You've got them well trained.
Yep, indeed.
Other duties as assigned. Exactly.
That is true.
All right. John's got a question over here on YouTube that just came in. Any thoughts about triggering a device collection refresh immediately after a task sequence runs, getting increased demand for software center deployments to come through right away after imaging? Used to refresh every time with Windows 7, and it just hammered the site when I was refreshing.
I mean, it's fairly simple to call a script that does a update of a specific collection. Would recommend to go through a web service. I don't remember on top of my head if there is an update option in the AdminService. I know there is one for adding machines to a collection. I blogged about that a little while ago. Here. I'm not sure if that PowerShell module had support for updating collections. No. I want to see add and remove and get. But it is fairly straightforward to have a web service doing that job for you. Been using quite a few of those over the years. And I happen to know where John works as well. And I know that they have access to a paid web service that very well can do that job. So would recommend using that one.
All right. Great tip. All right. Vert's got another question here. Any possibility to do an OSD task sequence being at home, not a VM, but a physical device?
Oh, heck yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you happen to have that available, Andrew?
Indeed. Let me see here. I think I do. If you give me just a moment before you hop over to my screen.
Well, I can do some prep work.
So one of the methods is through the CMG.
So shall I switch?
Yes, you can. I'm just waiting for my console to load here.
All right. Yeah, so long story short, ConfigMgr does support bare metal imaging over internet, as long as you have the cloud management gateway feature added, which does come with an extra cost, but it's fairly inexpensive.
Well, and once you have it running, imaging is largely trivial over that connection.
Oh yeah, it's same as regular deployment. It's more or less the media that is different.
Exactly. So we head over in our ConfigMgr console, head over to our software library, and then our task sequences. And then we're simply going to create task sequence media. Yes, I know. All right. And then from here, we just, as Johan said, we create the media, but it's pretty much the standard deployment or standard media creation, but there's something special that we have to do. So we're going to select bootable media, and then we're going to select site-based media. And this is the key here. So when we select site-based media, we're going to do the same options that we normally do here. So either we can do this with a flash drive, or we can do an ISO. So we'll do CMG media demo.iso. We'll click next. Would recommend giving this a password if you're going to be doing some imaging over the internet and giving people media at home. Select our boot image like normal. Select our distribution point, which will show your on-prem distribution point here, but it will use your CMG. And then here is the particular configuration we need to add if we want to use our CMG. Select our CMG as the management point in the boot media. And then we can go ahead and create that media. And from that point on, it's going to look like a standard media deployment. It's just going to contact the CMG for all of the management point requests, policy requests, and content requests. But it's going to look like your standard task sequence.
All right, awesome. Thank you, sir.
Pretty straightforward. Shockingly straightforward. I still, to this day, the first time I saw this, I was like, that seems too easy.
Well, in all fairness, the very first release was not that brilliant of it. It took them a version to get it right.
Yep. But now here we are, and it's been working well for quite some time.
Perfect. There was a follow-up comment regarding the drivers. The gentleman asking the question about the camera for the Dragonfly found a thread where you had to install the serial IO driver and the graphics card before the camera for it to work. And all right. That's what has to be done then.
That reminds me of when you came across what was it, storage drivers or network drivers that had to be named a specific way, so you wouldn't have one installed before the other.
That was for WinPE, the RAID
Yeah.
drivers that I don't recommend using anyway. But if you have to use them, that order mattered as well. And the trick there was just to name them alphabetically in the order you want them to be named or injected, and ConfigMgr will actually take them in that order. That was a pretty clever solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Another question here on YouTube. How many apps is too many in a sequence? I think we're near 25. Some apps that have never needed a reboot all of a sudden require one and break the sequence out of the blue. Can be a bit frustrating.
Well, as long as the app itself doesn't do the reboot. So you suppress the reboot and you have the sequence do the reboot, it is usually okay to have it. However, if those 25 apps are application model apps, you may run into one of those scenarios where it simply becomes unreliable to have the sequence deploy that many. And then the solution is to flip over to legacy packages. They do not have that issue. There are customers who deploy hundreds of apps in sequences. That step can run for an hour or two. And if performance and reliability is your goal, ditch the application model for those and create them as basically duplicates as legacy packages and use them in the sequence. But I usually don't recommend to start to do that unless you have a problem with the app model app. If you have apps that are working perfectly both in normal deployments and in sequences, by all means continue to use them. But if you start to see these intermittent, strange failures, like very different every time you deploy, know that the solution is just to convert them to legacy packages, because that is rock solid. Still, the application should not reboot on its own, but legacy packages will always win in terms of stability and performance.
So no hard and fast number on this is how many before you have a problem. There's just so many variables with all of the applications and hardware and things like that.
Yeah. Sometimes simply using wrappers for some of the more complex apps will help, because it could be, say, an MSI installer that will tell ConfigMgr, yeah, I'm done. And it's basically lying through its teeth. It's not done at all. There are still processes that are finishing up. With the wrapper script, you can catch that and have it wait until it's really done and then continue. So
that's probably why some of those MSIs will have the really suppress switch or something like that.
Yeah. First the very silent switch and then the really suppress, which is of course more than a normal suppress.
You're very serious with that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, just a couple of follow-up comments here. Currently using all app model leaves me guessing on where to have that reboot step in this sequence. And yeah, sometimes a different app every run. So it sounds like a type of scenario that you're talking about that you've seen.
Yeah. As long as in later versions of ConfigMgr, the sequence try to listen to catch if someone wants to do a reboot and try to shut down gracefully. But that's more like cross your fingers and hope you're lucky.
Yeah.
It's way more reliable to tell the sequence when to reboot. So you have a list of 7 apps, you install them, then you do reboot. Then you add another step where you install the other 18, making it up to 25 there. We got a comment in on a few switches here. Quiet, no reboot, really suppress for all though.
For real.
Yeah, for real though, not for all.
For real though,
yeah.
I'm serious. Awesome.
That's awesome. All right then. We filled up the full hour. Fantastic.
Hey, we couldn't do it without everybody contributing here.
There you go. Yeah, it's true. Thank you everyone for joining us this week. We hope to see you again next Wednesday. And thank you again. Have a great day. The rest of the day.
Thanks. Have a great one, everybody.